Welcome Welcome to Being Brave 2020, an evening honoring survivors of domestic violence presented by Cadillac. With appearances by Being Brave Award recipient, Tony-nominated actor, philanthropist, and activist Cheryl Lee Ralph. Outstanding Volunteer Award recipient Debbie Maddock. Outstanding Provider Award recipient Detective Danny Gallardo. Outstanding Advocate Award recipient Leslie Maxie Oley. New Brunswick, New Jersey Mayor Jim Cahill. Emergency Physician Dr. Arabia Mollett. Award-winning artist and cartoonist Lauren Weinstein. The Man Stand with Town Clock CDC President John Keller. Middlesex County Deputy Director Freeholder Kenneth Armwood, and other notable men from around the country. A keynote address featuring the Barbara Littman House expansion project by Town Clock CDC Executive Director Susan Kramer Mills. With performances by Melanie Daniels, Jan Ritter, Dr. Melanie R. Hill, and Ahmad J. King Wallace. Featuring music director Devin Harris and the Next Level Band. A special greeting from the First Lady of New Jersey, Tammy Murphy.
Hello everyone, this is First Lady of New Jersey, Tammy Murphy. It is my honor to be a part of this year's Town Clock Community Development Corporation's Being Brave event. As First Lady, I have made protecting the lives of New Jersey's mothers and babies a priority. And while my work is done through Nurture NJ, our initiative to combat the maternal and infant health crisis, I know that there are many threats to the lives and health of our mothers and children. I am truly grateful to be able to count Town Clock CDC as a trusted partner in this shared mission. Two important things we can do to support survivors of domestic violence is to provide a space where they are safe from further abuse and listen to them as they share their story. These two actions, hallmarks of Town Clock CDC, offer survivors an opportunity to not only escape a bad situation, but to find their own voice and in so doing take a hopeful step towards the future. Town Clock CDC's 10-unit apartment complex, which opened in April 2016, has been a huge success, which I hope will become a model for the rest of the nation. And as the program expands here in New Jersey, by opening the Barbara Littman House, more women and families will be given a chance at a safe, healthy, and happy future. I want to thank Town Clock CDC again for their commitment to the women and children of New Jersey and for their invitation to be a part of this special event. Thank you and God bless.
In my life I've traveled some roads, a rolling stone, nowhere feels like home. And I've seen people come and they go. Life is just a story of some highs and some lows. Tell me, do you believe in miracles? I'm standing here before your eyes. Cried many rivers, I've walked through some pain, I've seen my world crumble and I've carried the shame. But I know somebody who calls me his own. I can hear heaven singing out, oh, oh, you're never alone. Oh, oh, you're never alone. Everybody wants to be king. We put all our hope inside material things. In your light I now understand that everything I have ain't everything that I am. Sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough, but that's when love says you're mine. Oh, many rivers, I walk through some pain. See my world crumble, and I carry the but shame. I know somebody who calls me his own. I can hear heaven crying out. Oh, some time, but now I realize my imperfections were a part of your plan. If little things work together, in the end, the broken will be beautiful. Ooh, yeah.
Welcome to Being Brave, an evening honoring survivors, presented by Cadillac. I'm so glad to be your host and guide this evening for the second year in a row. I'm Lisa Guerrero. We intentionally begin this evening with Never Alone, because in many ways, Town Clock CDC has provided for their residents a sense of not worrying about being alone in their fight to regain their independence. They are safe in their own permanent, affordable home with supportive services. And as we all well know, having a home provides you the opportunity to be still, be safe, and be healed. As you can imagine, this was not always the case for a survivor of domestic violence, and that's why we're here. Tonight, through song, art, and spoken word, we'll walk through the importance of listening and understanding the story and the triumph of a survivor. From the hopes and dreams that she had for her life, to the realization that she was an abused woman, to the hope, peace, and safety that a home and supportive services provides, to the life that she gets to reimagine for herself and for her children. An evening like this doesn't happen by accident. Tonight is the result of a dedicated team of workers, volunteers, and the tremendous support of committed sponsors. We would like to have words from one of the prominent figures in the city of New Brunswick, New Jersey. Let's welcome Mayor Cahill.
Thank you, Lisa. And hi, everyone. Welcome to Being Brave 2020. You know, everyone deserves to be able to live in a home free of mental and physical abuse. And certainly our children deserve and need a place that they can grow and learn and play without physical violence. That's why the work of Town Clock CDC is so very important. They provide critical, permanent, safe, secure, and affordable housing to victims of domestic violence and their families. That's why I'm so very excited to be with you today to talk about all the great work that Town Clock does and that your support, how important it is for all that they do. I'm here today joining you from the brand new Barbara Littman house which will be yet another opportunity for a family to have a better and safer life and a home filled with laughter and love. This is important times for all of us. For all of you, we are so very thankful for all that you do. To Town Clock CDC, we are so very proud in New Brunswick to be your home and home to all of those that live at Dina's Dwellings and at Barbara Littman House. And to all who are listening today and viewing and participating in Being Brave 2020, your support, your generosity, and your advocacy for those that sometimes can't advocate for themselves says something very special to the people that will live here at Dina's Dwellings and Barbara Littman House, words that they thought they may never hear. Welcome home. To Town Clock CDC and to all of you, thank you, and thanks again.
Thank you, Mayor Cahill, for your support of Town Clock CDC. At this time, let's enjoy a word from our presenting sponsor for the second consecutive year, Cadillac, followed by words from the head of multicultural marketing for Cadillac, Alexis Kerr.
We all have our own journey ahead of us, our own hopes and dreams. And along the way, we'll pass many milestones, each one more inspiring than the last. These are the moments that define you. These are the moments that drive you to achieve even more, to reach even higher, then do it all over again. So pause. Take a moment of reflection and celebrate every single one. Because success isn't just about where you want to get to. It's also about how you get there.
And cut on rehearsal.
Good evening. My name is Alexis Kerr, and I'm the head of multicultural marketing here at Cadillac. On behalf of the Cadillac family, it is my esteemed pleasure and honor to welcome you to an evening of celebrating survivors, specifically women who have never stopped arriving while striving to live lives successful and impactful, free from, of course, violence. We're in a very different time now with the pandemic, and this is the first experience of any type for many of us. But we know disruption and trying circumstances are not new to our community. Especially at times like this, we must continue to demonstrate flexibility, agility, and of course, resilience. This is now Cadillac's second year of partnership, and we're very excited to continue to support an organization like this. As demonstrated by the all-new 2021 Cadillac Escalade, our groundbreaking innovation has redefined the boundaries and limits of mobility, and it's definitely us at our finest. So let's take a moment to not think of everything that's going on in the world around us and use this platform to celebrate very unique stories. Our goal at Cadillac is always to ensure that everyone feels safe, respected, and of course, valued. To Lisa Guerrero, Mrs. Shirley Ralph, and Dr. Arabia Mollett, we say thank you for your outstanding contributions in tonight's event, but also in community. So with that, again, I say thank you on behalf of Cadillac. Have a wonderful evening.
Town Clock CDC is also grateful for the support of the many corporate and local business sponsors. It's by the diligent work of their internal teams and the vision of their corporations that tonight was made possible. Trigger warning. The conversations this evening may be difficult to hear, but very necessary. If in any way you feel uncomfortable or triggered, please know that we have staff available for you to talk to throughout the evening via our chat, messaging function on our social media accounts, or via our website at townclockcdc.org. Understand it's never our intent to trigger anyone, but the very nature of what we're presenting may have that effect. And if you're in a situation at home which is unsafe, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline 24/7. That number is 1-800-799-7233 or 1-800-799-SAFE. Thank you for supporting the work of Town Clock CDC.
Presenting an original spoken word piece, Listen. Welcome E. Denise Peoples.
Hearing is simply the act of perceiving sound by ear. Hearing simply happens. Listening, however, is something you consciously choose to do. Listening is a choice. In the state of the world, we are in awe of a pandemic that has changed the very fiber of our day-to-day, totally surprised us. But imagine, if you will, a pandemic of abuse. This is nothing new to those who live it every day. Isolation is a way of life for the abused woman. It's there that she cries out. She hides behind masks because of either the visual evidence of her pain or the pain of the visual evidence. Social distancing, that's how she lives daily. And she's probably said something to someone, directly or indirectly, out of her mouth or with her silence, just hoping that someone would listen to their hearts and help her, as loud as they can be, but no one listens. She tries everything within her to hold on to hope. To the little girl who had dreams, if she could only remember what those dreams were, because the epidemic of the abuse has been unleashed and packed down on her. Every scab has been ripped off. There is no vaccination for her life. But that's what they say. Oh, they think she has no voice. They think they've taken her sound. No one hears her. But little girls have the most fierce screams. You can hear them from far away or way down inside. But you have to listen. We have to listen. Listen with our ears, our hands, our resources, but most of all, our hearts. Because when we listen, isolation becomes independence. Masks become motivation, and social distancing becomes strength and determination. Now, this didn't just happen because she got louder, but because someone listened. And when we listen, she's got something to say. She's got stories that only she can tell. Every time we listen, she gets stronger. She gets more powerful. She gets fierce. And then she becomes a listener. Every day the people of this city live their lives, and they know that that town clock will toll at certain times. It directs them at pivotal moments of the day. Oh no, it's 9 o'clock, I'm late for work. Oh yeah, it's time for lunch. And then the big one, they are hoping to hear 5 tolls because they know it's time to go home. Yeah, sometimes they stop in their tracks and hope that people would just be quiet. Shh, they're trying to listen. And they listen intently so they can do something. And just like that, that's my charge to you. Listen and do something. Listening is a choice. Shh. Listen.
Ha sido muy importante porque yo, escuchando las experiencias de ellos, he podido también aprender sobre las experiencias sobre ellos, y he podido conocer personas también, conocerlos a ellos y conocer nuevas amistades. Es importante escucharla porque así ellas se pueden expresar y sacar de adentro todos los dolores que han pasado en su vida cuando tuvieron la violencia doméstica.
I wasn't strong in the beginning. I used to cry, I used to be upset and all that, but after a while, you know, talking with people, with all the programs that we have, you know, we have had, and thank goodness we also have like a therapist here talking to us, so that helped me a lot, you know, to be strong, you know, and of course my faith in God. Yeah, other people don't understand it yet, but it's like when you go through all of this trauma, you learn from this trauma and you become a very strong person. You can help others after that. People should know out there what's going on, because if they go through the same thing, they need to know about what steps to take and how they should handle a problem, you know, when it comes to domestic violence. A lot of people don't know. For example, when I went to court, the things that my ex has done, for example, okay, they said, you want a restraining order, you have to write down the things that he's done on, did you ever jot it down? Nobody told me to jot down things every time something happened in the house, you know, to have it in a notebook or something like that and date it. Nobody told me that. So how are we supposed to know? And you know, look at red flags too, you know. We have to look at that too. We have to be taught in society how to see the red flags.
I was married for 33 years to somebody who was abusive. I didn't have any signs when we were dating, so I didn't know. And I was very heavily influenced by my religion, so I thought I had to do things a certain way as a wife. And after 33 years, I kind of realized I didn't have to do that anymore, and I got out. My family at first didn't believe until, you know, I told them more. But my girlfriends probably, you know, and some other close friends got me through it. And it's for them to validate and to believe is really, really important when you're hurting and you're really trying to get through to people. You are stronger than you think, and you can get out. It's not going to be easy. It wasn't easy for me, but you can do it. I believe in you, and you've just got to take a step of faith and keep going, keep moving forward. Just keep going, keep walking forward.
Help us welcome New Brunswick City Council member Rebecca Escobar.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Escobar, City Councilwoman in the City of New Brunswick, and also board member of Town Clock CDC. Domestic violence is a public health issue that affects millions of women and men. 1 in 4 women experience physical violence by an intimate partner in the United States. When a woman decides to break the cycle of violence, it takes remarkable courage to do. Our residents have the opportunity to work with renowned artist and cartoonist Lauren Weinstein in a series of art classes. Our residents were able to express and reflect on their stories about surviving domestic violence. I am extremely proud to say today that resulted in 3 of our residents having reignited their passion in art, and now are empowered, knowing and realizing that they are now able to be financially stable and also have confidence in their independence in the future. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Lauren Weinstein, renowned artist and cartoonist and collab arts performance. Enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Rebecca Escobar, for that introduction. It has been my privilege to work on this project as the Collab Arts resident artist with Town Clock CDC and the residents at Dina's Dwellings. As Rebecca stated, domestic violence is such an important issue to talk about, and so much more is needed to help educate and inform about ways to prevent and stop the cycle of violence. The forthcoming comic book is my way as an artist to showcase the incredible stories of endurance and survival of the residents, staff, and supporters of Town Clock CDC. Thanks to a generous grant from Middlesex County, I've been able to work side by side with the residents and staff in the creation of this work. I wanted to give you all a little sneak peek of this comic, and thanks to some vocal performances from Collab Arts, we were able to present this excerpt just for you tonight. Thanks, everybody. Walking up to my first meeting at Town Clock. I'm interested in this job because I want to tell other people's stories, and because of a story I'd heard about how this church became a home. Susan takes me upstairs and shows me the meeting room. I meet Christine Edwards, the programmer for Town Clock, and 2 social work interns. Maybe we should do a superhero project with them. They could make vision boards where they see themselves. Part of my job will be to get to know the women, interview them, and make a comic about their lives. Am I up to the task? Will they trust me? Will I do right by them retelling their stories? Will teaching them art help anything?
It's a dream come true for me. When I was younger, I started when I was like 5 years old. I always watched my mom draw. She would always draw like the Beatles or like Brigitte Bardot or something like that. Figures that look like that with the bell bottoms and the belts. And I liked that drawing, and I was drawing just like her. The flowers, the way she drew them. And I said, I'm gonna do the same. But my drawings after that perfected, and so it's what I want to do. It means my future to me. It means something that I thought that I could never ever have, you know. I hope it, you know, it's for my future. I hope so.
I feel like I get people who listen to me, and aside that, I get to discover myself more. And with this art class, it just, wow. Because I didn't have any background, I just feel like I have discovered the new me, something different about me. I love it.
She's also listening, and she's helping me like not to think about that thing, just try to focus on your breathe, or try to do some yoga. And painting is the only one thing which I can focus on. I don't have to think about anything, and it make me feel good.
Thank you, Lauren Weinstein and the performers from Collab Arts for sharing your gifts with us tonight. I'm blown away by the work Lauren's been able to do during the pandemic with the residents of Town Clock CDC. The artwork is beautiful. If you're interested in purchasing Lauren's or the residents' art, please visit townclockcdc.org/art sale. Also, if you didn't purchase our premium ticket tonight, you can still pre-order Lauren's comic novella about Town Clock CDC. Head to our website shown at the bottom of the screen. It's a limited edition, so get yours while supplies last. I can't express enough gratitude for our next presenter, the woman who's the brainchild behind Town Clock CDC, Reverend Susan Kramer Mills. She's been a leader in the New Brunswick community for over 20 years. Tonight, Town Clock CDC gives back and honors those who have been instrumental in helping Town Clock CDC become established, and also help these women and their children obtain a fresh start. Welcome, Reverend Susan Kramer Mills.
Thank you, Lisa. This evening, as we share the work of Town Clock Community Development Corporation with you, we also want to honor those who have been instrumental in the community and helping bring forth the mission of Town Clock CDC. First, I would like to introduce to you Debbie Maddock from Sophie's Bistro. She is receiving the Outstanding Volunteer Award. Her annual solicitation e-blast to the Sophie Bistro patrons have been hugely successful and a wonderful boon to our residents. On an annual basis, we provide a holiday wish list for each one of our residents and their children. And Sophie's Bistro, through Debbie Maddox's support and impetus, sends it out, and we receive an enormous amount of donations, and all of the wishes are fulfilled. And there's also the product collection that she does for our food pantry. It's filled every January through that wonderful support. And personally, she also has organized the restaurants in the local area to donate warm meals for our community dinners. Without her support, these dinners would not exist. Thank you, Debbie, for all you do for our Town Clock and our residents. And here is your Being Brave Award.
Congratulations, Debbie. I'm sure that you have a few words to say about this. And if you can start by just kind of describing what your personal relationship is to Town Clock CDC.
Well, I had started doing dinners for the different women. They would have a warm dinner from different restaurants, and Susan has been just great. And it was something that I could do. It was like I always wanted to be involved. I had been involved like in a very bad relationship and thought to myself, well, I want to do something, but I'm not very good with computers and other things. So I thought this is something that I'm capable of doing, and it's been great. It's been really rewarding, and Susan and everybody there are so nice. They really are. So.
Debbie, talk about Sophie's Bistro and what it is and the connection that Sophie's Bistro has with Town Clock CDC.
Well, Sophie's Bistro is the restaurant where I manage, and I thought that the best way to get more for Town Clock was to approach our patrons, because I knew that they're just wonderful people, and this award is for them as well, and for the owner and Danny, the manager, because everybody worked together. And the minute I sent out a letter and told my story about my relationship, they were so nice. Everybody came forward with stories and then just started donating, and it just snowballed to there. And then we did the Christmas presents, and every year people now call me to say, can we give Christmas presents? So it's great. It really is.
So Debbie, if you're comfortable sharing a little bit about your personal history and why you wanted to step up and to be of service to these women and their kids through Town Clock CDC because of your own personal background.
Well, I had been involved from like the time I was the beginning of college with somebody who was very physically abusive, and it was really hard to get out of the relationship, very hard. And I thought to myself, wow, these women are out, but they still need help. And so that's why I got involved. And I think that anybody can get involved. Just do what you know you do well. I know I do restaurants well, but everybody has something that they can do well, and they can help with things that are important to them. And women need to, or well, just not women either, I know that, but people need to stand up and, you know, do things for other people. Otherwise, none of this works.
You know, you make such a great point, Debbie. And I love how you said, you know, we all do something well. We all have gifts that we can share. So finally, to kind of wrap this up, can you just give a word of advice to somebody else who might want to be of service to Town Clock CDC, who might want to give back to their community? What's the advice that you would give?
Well, just think about, you know, how you can help and where you know that you can make a change. And if you are capable of using, a computer really well and helping with social media, or just organizing dinners, or anything that you can do. Just reach out to people, because otherwise, what's the point? That's all.
Well said. Thank you so much, Debbie. And thank you for your support of Town Clock CDC through the years.
Okay, thank you so much. You have a good day.
The Outstanding Advocate Award goes to Leslie Maxey Oli. Leslie Maxey is a very special friend to Town Clock CDC and our residents. Through her guidance throughout 2019, many things occurred. She started out with a dance class, which she organized for our residents. And I know that Leslie even participated at times with that dance. But then she also invited them over to her home and just to chat and share a meal together. And then an idea developed. And that idea was an inspiration for what we now call the Being Brave Gala. Without this Being Brave Gala, where throughout the year, Leslie trained our staff, our board, and new people who came along to join us to develop this idea of a fundraiser that is not only a fundraiser, but an awareness, a raising event. Through her work throughout last year, the hidden issue of homeless, battered women came to the forefront. I can truly say that without Leslie Maxey, the Being Brave event would not exist. We are terribly grateful to Leslie Maxey for all of her work. She is the outstanding advocate for us. Thank you, Leslie, for all you do for Town Clock CDC. We are truly a different organization through your support.
Thank you, Susan. You have touched my heart all the way through the internet. Hey, Lisa.
Congratulations, Leslie. Hi. Okay, so here's where we get real for a minute, because we have to tell the audience that Leslie Maxey is one of my best and dearest friends, mentor, superhero in my life and many other lives. And so, first of all, congratulations on this much deserved award and recognition. And I think maybe you can start by telling everybody how Being Brave came to be, and what your connection was to CDC, to Town Clock CDC, and also bringing our whole Being Brave platform into this amazing event.
Thank you, Lisa. You're right. Yeah, this is my ace. So, I don't believe there are any accidents in this world, not a one. And back in, I think, late 2018-19, Dr. Penelope Lattimore invited me to a luncheon at Sophie's Bistro. And when Dr. Lattimore calls, you don't do anything but say, yes, ma'am. So I went, and Susan was the only presenter. But when I tell you she brought the heat, Lisa, she brought the heat. And as I listened to her talk, I just kind of went into reporter mode. I said, how is it that 57% of women that find themselves homeless attribute it to domestic violence, and why isn't more being done? And then she talked about Town Clock's work, and that they had one of only 40 supportive, affordable, permanent housing facilities in the entire United States. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I almost didn't believe her. If her face wasn't so earnest, I wouldn't have believed her. But after I kind of hijacked her presentation, she finally said, look, kid, why don't you come to my office and talk to me? And that was really how everything started.
Well, Leslie, what people might not know about you is, first of all, you are an Olympian. You represented the United States in the Olympics. You are a rock star. You're in the USC Hall of Fame for track and field. I know your whole bio. You did sports reporting at Fox Sports and ESPN. You are a reporter. You are a journalist. You're a storyteller. but you're also this amazing patriot, and you look out for other citizens, you look out for other people. Can you talk about that first time that you participated in the dance class and how that kind of elevated your, I guess, relationship with Town Clock CDC?
Sure. Yeah, when I came to visit Susan that day and just had a chance to see some of the apartments and see how the whole building was comprised, the first thing that I thought of, and this is it harkens to our friendship and my close friendship with women in my life was, well, how are these women getting to spend time together? You know, they have this beautiful facility, but at the end of the day, you know, when you have a shared experience, that's the thing that connects us all. And what could
Yes.
I do to kind of lay the groundwork where they had an opportunity to just be girls and spend time together? So I invited them all over to my house and we hosted a big dinner. Some of them brought their kids and stuff, and you know how I love kids. So we, you know, just kind of sat around and shared some of our stories. And it turned out that three women on our block had all had some level of domestic abuse or domestic violence that they had dealt with in their lives and had, you know, really ascended their situations and built new lives for themselves. So it was such a perfect full circle moment for us to share our stories and the women get to see that there is hope. And so from there, we started talking about, well, what would they like to do? Now, selfishly, I've always wanted to take ballet classes, but never had an opportunity when I was a kid. And there is a dance school down the block from us, American Repertory Ballet, and Julie Hinch said that she would host us. So she enrolled a young woman to be the instructor, and we came in and did trauma-informed ballet and other types of dances as well. And when I tell you, I mean, bunions on my feet and all, it was a blast. It was so much fun. And we just got to be, you know, and I think that's one thing that we don't think about a lot when you are literally fighting for your life. You know, once you get safe, once you get stable, what can you do that just allows you to connect with your humanity? And that's what I wanted to achieve with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leslie. And thank you for your continued support of Town Clock CDC. They couldn't have picked a better advocate, in my opinion. So congratulations on this
Thank
huge
you.
honor, and thank you for participating again.
Thank you so much. And thank you for lending your Being Brave platform to make it all possible. I love you for that and many other reasons. So grateful.
Thank you. It's my honor.
The Outstanding Provider Award goes to Detective Danny Gallardo. Our town benefits from a well-trained domestic violence response team through the New Brunswick Police Department. They are a model for the surrounding communities and how they've trained and how they support our victims. Our whole town benefits from this support. But my favorite story is how Detective Gallardo comes annually to our facility bringing gifts along with Santa Claus, and it never fails that one of our older youth come by and even if they might not believe in Santa Claus, still want one of those presents. Detective Gallardo always has something in that sack from Santa Claus. Thank you, Detective Gallardo, for all that you do.
Thank you, Susan Mills. Thank you very much. Thank you to Town Clock CDC. I really don't, after listening to everybody, the big guns, you brought the big guns out. I don't think I deserve that award. I'm very humbled. I'm humbled that you know I was recognized. I know, and I know I discussed it with you before, that I think it's all of us as a team that make the effort. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. And the police department thanks you too.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Detective. Such a big honor, and I can't
Yeah,
imagine
it
anybody
is.
deserving this more than you do. Can you tell us a little bit about your position and what you do in the city of New Brunswick to support Town Clock CDC and other women and children in need?
Well, as you would know, I'm a detective for the domestic violence unit in the city of New Brunswick. I have 27 years working in the police department. We currently have 11 domestic violence team respond members. One is, her name is Tanya Jeter. She's the main coordinator. What I try to do is we try to reach out to the victims and the children, because sometimes, you have the victim, the mom or the dad, and there's always children involved. And children are the ones that suffer a lot, and it's hard to explain to them what's going on. So by the little things that we do with Santa Claus is we try to bring a little bit of a smile to their face. We know we can't make them forget what's going on, but we try to like ease it a little bit, make them easy for them to kind of understand. Um, so we try to reach out to the victims, and like I said, most of the time they have children. One of the things that my unit does is we take a lot of collections. People bring us clothes, stuffed animals, food. And when I went to the first time I was invited to the town clock, to Dina's dwelling, I noticed there were a lot of kids in there. There were some kids and the victims, but we sometimes never bring anything for the kids. So bringing Santa Claus to the children, I thought that just that little bit, would try to make them happy, just for at least for that day. But it's so hard, it is so hard to take care of everyone. And
Sure.
the town clock and Dina's dwelling does an awesome job. It's just remarkable. It's unbelievable.
So, Detective, tonight's event really focuses on one element that I'm sure you're very familiar with in your role, and that is listening to survivors, listening to these women and listening to their journey and what they've been through. Can you talk a little bit about how important listening is to these women during this very crucial time?
Well, listening is the most important thing, because, as you know, domestic violence issues are, different in nature. There's either sexual abuse, um, financial abuse, or, sometimes it's just a lot of physical abuse. So when you listen to the victim, you pretty much, are trying to tell the victim, we're trying to help you. And I believe that when you listen to the victim emotionally, it helps them. It helps them to understand, and it helps me to understand them, because we have so many resources, we have so much help around in the city, and that's understanding them is makes me understand what kind of help they need, what kind of resources, if they need women aware, if they need Dina's dwelling, if they need money. And sometimes I believe that when you give that, comfort to the victim, when you let them know that there's something there that they can leave, that they can get up and leave from that abuse, and it makes it easier for them. I would say, it would make it easier for them to leave, and at least
Sure.
they have somewhere to go. Because, as you know, most women are rather they rather stay in the abuse than be homeless. And if you have kids, that's the one thing you have to think about, your kids. You don't want to be homeless with your kids on the street. So the poor victim has to endure, all that trauma and abuse, because they don't want to they don't want to be homeless.
Well, Detective Guillardo, you are the reason why so many people um, are so thankful that public servants exist, that people like you
Thank you.
actually take the time to listen and to care and to go well beyond your job duties and the scope of what you were hired to do. In
Thank you.
fact, you are a symbol for all people, all
Thank
of
you.
us. that are hoping to learn how to listen better and to react better to these survivors of domestic abuse. So from Town Clock CDC, I'd like to thank you so much for everything that you do, and congratulations on this well-deserved honor tonight.
Thank you.
Me he sentido bien segura, porque al principio me sentía con mucho miedo y todo me daba mucho terror y salir a la calle y todo, pero desde que empecé a vivir en Dinaswelly me empecé a sentir protegida, y también mi hijo también. Me siento demasiado bien en escucharlo, porque esto es una gran oportunidad para las personas que hemos pasado por esto, para ayudarnos a crecer y a querernos nosotras mismas, y que ellas puedan ver que sí se puede, que podemos seguir adelante y que sí se puede superar y que nunca podemos echar para atrás y que podemos seguir hacia adelante. Me dio alas en el sentido que me ayudó a crecer y a quererme a yo misma y ver que nunca se dice nunca, que sí, que nosotras podemos superar todos esos problemas emocionales que pasamos cuando estuvimos en la experiencia de domestic violence. Dinaswelly para mí es una oportunidad como que nos da las alas, las wings, como dicen, las alas, y entonces después que nos da las alas, nosotros podamos volar.
I feel more secured in Dinaswelly, more protected. And I feel it gives me the opportunity to move on, and I don't feel pressured, and I feel like I live in a community that I can always talk to somebody, and it helps me to move on with my life, to take care of me and my baby, and to think about the way forward, and to look at the brighter side of my life. It gives me confidence. I'm a part of a community where people come from different backgrounds, and I get to meet with people and talk with people, and people listens to me. I feel more like I'm respected, and my views and my ideas are taken into consideration. I have learned to unite with the other ladies, and to feel like we are all in a situation that we need each other to move on in life. And I have also learned to live with different people with different backgrounds, and I have also learned to make more friends. It made me not to feel so lonely about myself again. I feel like a new person. I feel amazing. It just brings out something new I never knew about myself.
I'm not alone here. At least I have someone. And even we are going out for a walk, or whenever we want to talk, she's there. It means a lot, especially with the counseling. Before I was having counseling once in a month and over the phone. Not even the Zoom call now, just over the phone, that's it. And now every week I'm having counseling face to face. And whenever I need, she's like, I can call her. And I'm calling her, even at night also. They are helping me. Whenever I need to talk, they are there. I need something, they are helping me with that thing. So yeah, they are doing a lot. I've seen like many ladies who need the house like this one, apartments. When I was in the shelter, there were a lot of ladies and they can't afford the house. No one can afford like the ladies here where I was in that shelter. We can't afford the house. So yeah, I think for them these type of like apartments or houses needs to be there. I feel safe and secure because that's what I was looking for.
Last year at our inaugural Being Brave Gala, during Reverend Susan Kramer Mills's keynote, she mentioned the need for expansion to support more survivors and their kids. So I'm honored to highlight that earlier this month, due to the amazing support of the Home HUD funds through the City of New Brunswick and Housing First Capital Grant through the Middlesex County Commissioners, generous donations from unnamed and named sponsors, Town Clock CDC opened its first expansion project, the Barbara Littman House. We welcome back Reverend Susan Kramer Mills, Executive Director of Town Clock CDC.
Town Clock Community Development Corporation started as a vision by church volunteers to provide long-term affordable housing within the walls of their historic sanctuary. Like many churches, this large space was beautiful, but the congregation had difficulty sustaining it. Looking to the future, though, they formed a committee which would then plan out the new usage of the building. The congregation had past experience in providing support for homeless individuals. Each winter, they provided short-term shelter to homeless men. Stemming from this experience and using their congregation's history as a point of inspiration, an idea formed to create long-term affordable housing for unhoused survivors of domestic violence. You see, years ago, the congregation had housed a survivor of domestic violence. That experience in 1971 led to a disaster. The woman's abuser broke into the historic church and set it on fire. That fire destroyed the sanctuary's historic interior. Yet that story was the inspiration which influenced their new vision, turning disaster into an opportunity. After completing their dream in 2016 of building permanent affordable housing for survivors of domestic violence, 10 women and several children moved into the new housing facility. And Town Clock CDC matured into their new task of providing the wraparound services for these new residents. Built in the 1880s, this colorful single-family house has witnessed many periods of New Brunswick history. Now it is the only remaining relic of that time period in the downtown area. Town Clock's vision of expansion viewed this house as a wonderful next project. With the permission of the First Reformed Church, Town Clock applied for major grants. The New Brunswick Housing and Urban Development, Home Fund, and Middlesex County's Housing First Capital Grant were the key sources for completing this renovation. Several private donors also enabled us to develop this property in a way that makes this house a true home for a survivor of domestic violence and her children. Domestic violence is the #1 reason for female homelessness in the United States. Often women are homeless with their children. One of Town Clock's goals is to increase the number of units of long-term, affordable and supportive housing for survivors and the children under their care. There are only 13 such apartments in New Jersey. With the ribbon cutting of this house, we have added one more, just one more, making the total number of units 14. Still, the need is far greater. Barbara Littman's philanthropic support in Town Clock's beginnings is deeply appreciated. She advised our board in reimagining our fundraising efforts. Her words of wisdom carried us through several years of planning. Unfortunately, with her untimely passing, a deep hole was created, as many who knew her feel this to this day. She was such a vibrant and gifted human being. We are deeply grateful to her husband, Leonard Littman, who continues to honor her support of our work. His generous gift to the naming of this house, the Barbara Littman House, will benefit many survivors in the years to come. It is her legacy which we celebrate today at this ribbon cutting.
Barbara was never one to look for rewards, but I think this is a wonderful recognition. Regardless.
This historic house will become a home for at least another 140 years. Home plays a vital role in human life. Home is the place where we ought to feel safe, where we ought to enjoy complete freedom. And if you have a happy family, there's no place like home for complete comfort and peace of mind. Maya Angelou once wrote, "The ache for home lives in all of us. The safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned." Each survivor of domestic violence hopes for such a place. Where is the warmth of home more alive than in a kitchen? Family gathers at the table for a shared meal. Conversations are had. Joys and sorrows are discussed. Without housing, a survivor is more likely to go back to her abuser because she wants to provide for her children and doesn't want her children to be homeless. Being a single parent takes such bravery. Leaving an abusive relationship requires much courage. Let's face it, the coziness of this lovely renovated living room offers an amazing new beginning, knowing that there might be a place for oneself, a safe place, an affordable place, a place where people offer support. That place would be an encouragement to a survivor to take the step to leave her abuser. During this COVID-19 pandemic, with people cooped up in their homes, domestic violence cases are rising dramatically. This is a worst-case scenario. There is no reprieve. Children are especially caught with no opportunity to reach out to their emotional support systems, such as schools. As you walk with me through this newly renovated house, please imagine what this place represents. A safe, affordable home surrounded by supportive staff and connection to a generous community. A year ago, we announced this expansion project. This was our first step, and we achieved it even in a pandemic. Imagine if we replicate a housing model like this throughout the United States. With only 40 facilities such as this across our nation, it is ultimately clear that more need to be built. Town Clock's main goal is to inspire and support others to build, at least 2 in every state. Town Clock is doing this because every person deserves a safe home.
Dum, 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 dum. A chair is still a chair, even when there's no one sitting there. But oh, a chair is not a house, and a house is not a home when there's no one there to hold you tight, and no one there you can kiss good night. Listen, baby. A room is still a room, even when there's nothing there but gloom. But oh, a room is not a house, and a house is not a home when there are 2 of us are torn apart, and one of us has a broken heart. Now and then I call your name, and suddenly your face appears. Is it just a crazy game? When it ends, it ends in tears. Pretty little darling, have a heart. Don't let one mistake keep us apart. 'Cause I'm not meant to live alone. Turn this house into a home when I climb the stairs and turn the key. Oh, please be there, still in love with me. Yeah, I'm not meant to live alone. Turn this house into a home when I climb the stairs and turn the key. Please be there, still in love. I said, still in love with me. Yeah. Are you gonna be in love with me? I want you and need you, baby. Oh, still in love with me. Are you gonna be in love with me? It's driving me crazy to think that my baby still in love with me. Are you gonna be? Said you're gonna be. Are you gonna be? Are you gonna be? Said you're gonna be. Are you gonna be? Well, still in love, baby. Are you gonna be in love with me, baby? Darling, tell me, please, tell me, please, that you're still in love with me.
Thank you, Ahmed Wallace and Next Level, for that rousing rendition of A House Is Not a Home. I am so honored to see in just 1 year the expansion work Town Clock CDC has done in the community during a global pandemic. As a reminder, you can continue to help Town Clock by donating tonight, or better yet, becoming a sustaining donor at townclockcdc.org/donate. This year, for our 2020 Being Brave Award recipient, we're honored to salute Tony-nominated actor Ms. Sheryl Lee Ralph, who sparkles as a director, author, singer, philanthropist, community activist, wife, and mom. She can be seen in the freeform series Motherland Fort Salem, performing as U.S. President Kelly Wade. Ms. Ralph recently launched Diva Defined, a podcast featuring powerful women making moves in their various career paths, and a new digital talk series, Diva Simply Quarantined, on Facebook Live. Aside from her career pursuits, Cheryl's a fierce community activist and advocate. Ralph produces the annual benefit concert Divas Simply Singing, which raises awareness for HIV/AIDS and other life-threatening diseases, including COVID-19. This year will mark the 30th year of the event. Divas Simply Singing virtually will culminate Divas Health Awareness Week starting on World AIDS Day, December 1st through the 6th, and features an entire week of amazing streamlined events featuring performances, panels, and other content. The concert event will be televised locally in Los Angeles on KTLA 5, December 5th from 7 to 9. Let's hear a little bit more about Sheryl Lee Ralph from someone very special, her daughter, Ivy Coco Maurice.
Now, when one thinks of Sheryl Lee Ralph, they might think of a diva, divinely inspired, victoriously alive, audacious, and awesome. But I simply know her as M-O-M-M-Y, Mommy. And what makes her an incredible mother, leader, humanitarian, and activist is her ability to put her community forward. Her ability to share the stories of the unheard and the unseen. 30 years ago, when they told Sheryl Lee Ralph, don't talk about that gay disease, she didn't have fear, she didn't fold. Instead, she lit fires. Fires of change, fires of hope, fires of resistance. And now 30 years later, we are celebrating 30 years of Divas Simply Singing. Mommy, your existence is the resistance. Thank you for lighting those fires and burning those bridges that lead the way to victory. I love you.
Ms. Sheryl Lee Ralph, we are very honored to have you with us tonight. The work you launched over 30 years ago with the Diva Foundation is incredible and reminiscent of the work Town Clock CDC does to support women and children who have escaped abuse. We are excited to share in this season of awareness and partnership with you. Thank you for your support of Town Clock CDC and the survivors whom we serve.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I mean, I'm, oh my goodness, y'all are gonna make me lose my doggone contact. Thank you very much for that. And I'm quite surprised to learn that my daughter can hold a surprise the way she did. I didn't even know about it. So, wow, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And what beautiful words and what a tribute that she gave to you tonight, and how proud she is to be your daughter. What an example you are giving her.
You know, for me, it's just so interesting because I keep saying to myself, well, thank God you didn't waste your money on their education and their upbringing. I'm always telling them, don't embarrass me out there in public. And oh, wow, that was just so beautiful. And for your own child to feel that way about you is even more special.
Absolutely. Well, it's wonderful to have you with us tonight. Thank you for supporting Town Clock CDC.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ms. Ralph, so Susan gets to present you with your award, and I get to spend a few moments with you as a fan of yours and geek out a little bit with you. So thank you so much for doing this. You are no stranger to stage and screen. You have had an amazing career as a performer. And I think none of us have any shortage of our favorite roles, and mine's a toss-up, and I guess this shows you how old I am or what generation I am. But I cannot help but think of you as Moesha's mom, and how much I loved that show and how much I loved you in it. And seeing you on stage in Thoroughly Modern Millie in the original production was you in that white gown bringing the house down every night. So thank you so much for doing this. And I mean, speaking about the entertainment industry, what is that like? How do you continue to stay grounded, and relevant, in 2020 after such a storied career like that?
It's so interesting. I from the very beginning of COVID, I kept saying, will I come out of this bitter or will I come out of this better? And like anything, life is about choices, and I chose better. And I'm very happy in that COVID-19 pulled the covers off of certain inequities that have been taking place in communities, in societies, in boardrooms, and they have really helped people focus more on what they refused to see before. So in many ways, some of what I've done and what I have continued to do has become more in focus for people, which has worked out in my favor. And I am definitely going to come out of this better. And in a very strange way, I continue to work under all COVID rules. I continue to work and gain new relationships, which has been very interesting and wonderful at the same time.
Yeah, and I think, speaking about, how do we use that, or how do you use, what your career and your time and your energy to help others? The Diva Foundation has been around now for 30 years.
This Diva Foundation will be 31 this year. Diva Simply Singing will be 30 this year.
Wow. What was the motivation for you to start that organization?
It all began for me on stage doing Dreamgirls, and Dreamgirls, the 80s, and that was when the gay men's cancer was around there, this disease that they called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency disease. I mean, it didn't even have a name. It was just out there. And you would be singing and dancing with somebody one night, and they'd be fighting for their life the next. And society's, the government, humanity's response to their suffering, for me, was horrible. I couldn't believe that people who were so wonderful, so bright, so talented, so gifted, were just, people turned their backs on them like they were pariah. And I just, in my little church girl head, I was like, we can do better than this. We are better than this. And I just said, I've got to create a way to, I have to create a way to remember my friends so that people would know that they were good people, that they were kind people, they were somebody's lover, son, father, that they were people to be remembered. And that's what it was birthed out of. So it's really a living, breathing memorial to those lives lost then.
I think there's something so great about that too, because it really speaks to kind of the motivation for so many people to get involved in philanthropy and foundation work, in getting out and volunteering at your community soup kitchen, or getting out and doing something for the betterment. And it comes to that, what is that personal thing about our lives? What are those experiences we've had that motivate us to do that? Pastor Susan mentioned, some of the similarities between, the Diva Foundation and the work of Town Clock CDC. And we also we're aware that you produced a video a few years ago, My Soul Cries Out, which was a monologue discussing real women's stories about domestic abuse. I can say the first time I saw it, I was with a group of folks and we were just silent, for afterwards, just kind of processing the beauty of that moment. What caused you to create that?
Now, what came first was real women's real stories around HIV and AIDS, and that was called Sometimes I Cry. Mm-hmm. And the response to that was amazing. And I had to write that because so many women were becoming infected and affected by AIDS, and nobody wanted to talk about it. After I did the run of that, doing it and performing across the country, somebody that I knew had an issue with domestic violence. And I was like, whoa. And then I started to learn. And domestic violence is one of these things we really don't want to talk about, because there's so many, not just physical things connected to it, but psychological things connected to it, And in hearing all of the stories, it was as if my soul was crying out for answers, which is how I came up with the title. And I did the video to show exactly what love and not love looks like. So I always believe in also artistic activism. I believe that so much can be said through the arts. So when you saw the person looking at you and smiling and talking about love, and then you see the other side, it was just like, whoa. And that's how I wanted people to be affected by it. I wanted young women especially to know a slap in the face is not love. That's not love at all. A punch in your gut is not love. That is not him or her saying, I love you. No, it's telling you that is a sign that you are in a dangerous situation and you must get out of it. But then you find psychologically sometimes people are wanting the closeness and the punch and the hug or the kiss. They get confused. And I was so concerned by that. And we see it happen over and over. You might go to save somebody in a violent situation, but they're in love with that person, and sometimes the outcome is not the one that you would think. So it was all of these things put together that made me create My Soul Cries Out. And it's one of those things that I just feel I've just got to put it up on its feet one day.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think it's, we talk so much about the importance of messages that need to break through, and the importance of ideas, and the importance of changing preconceptions. And I think that message is so important for women and young girls to hear. It's also so important for men and young boys to hear.
Thank you. And now things have changed drastically. There used to be a time when domestic violence was man against woman. No, it's very different now. It can be anybody in any kind of living situation that is physically, mentally, psychologically detrimental to your being. So there is no way that we can say this is what domestic violence looks like, because it can be anybody. I mean, we're seeing domestic violence with children against parents. We're seeing lovers against each other, whoever those lovers might be. And it has changed greatly.
Thank you. It's the passion that you are speaking with and about is so much of what drives us too. And this year, Town Clock, we've expanded our programming with the opening of our new Barbara Littman house, which will be occupied very soon. I was kind of curious. I mean, what kind of advice would you give to families who are going through this? What kind of advice would you even give to folks who are looking to help and looking to try to raise awareness for funding of survivors of domestic violence and their children? What would your call to action be for us?
First of all, nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves it. The person who's being beaten does not deserve it. They are not an awful person. There's nothing wrong with them. There is something that is going on in the abuser's mind. What is going on in the person who is choosing to hurt and abuse someone who is not as strong as they are? What's going on with that? Now, the person who gets abused is very often in a position where they are least able to fight for themselves. They are least able to take care of themselves. Very often, in the past, we had seen women stay in relationships because they had nowhere to go with their kids. And that is very real. When you are a mother with children or a father with children, and you're trying to care for your children and you're being abused, you have nowhere to go. You got to think about that. Then you have to think about what is it that happens to the child that is in an abusive relationship. One thing we know, hurt people hurt people. Abusers grow up to be abusers. The more you yell at your wife, the more your son and your daughter learn to yell at somebody. The more you hurt somebody close to you in your family, the more they grow up to hurt somebody close to them in their family, whether it is their natural family or their chosen family. But the pain is coming, and it is very difficult to break those cycles, especially when you live in them. And suppose the woman is brave, and the woman or the man breaks out of that situation and they end up homeless. Society has a whole way that they feel about people who do not have homes. We consider they are less than, when really they are greater than, because they made a choice to get out of a bad situation. So you see how this all becomes a crazy, awful quagmire. And anybody who is successful in finding their life after abuse, that's a very special person. That's a very special family. That's a very special man. That's a very special woman. Because what they have to climb through to get out of that, I don't think anybody who's safe in their life could even conceive what it is they go through. And the fact that we have some place like Town Clock where they can find some comfort, that's major. That's major, because most times they have no place to go. And when your children are homeless, trust me, those children are going to probably do something terrible further on because they know what it's like to be completely unbalanced. And community, society, we don't pay close enough attention to how we truly treat other people. I'm just saying, don't get me started, man.
I think we can safely say that we could stay here and listen to you all night, because the eloquence and the passion with which you talk about these issues, and the time and energy that means something. Spending time and energy to go out there and do something about it. So I thank you so much for your time. I thank you so much for supporting Town Clock CDC and our Being Brave event. And I just articulate again, we are so happy to being able to give you this award, because you deserve it. And I know you don't like to receive praise, but here it is. Thank you. And we really appreciate your time.
I just want to say one more
tonight.
thing. I just want to say one more thing. When I was little, I was in Connecticut, the Northeast, and they had a place called, it was the Square. And on Sundays, people would go down to the Square, and in the middle of the Square was a big town clock. And the town clock was where people would gather. They would gather under the town clock. They would stroll in their finery. You would see them talking about what needed to go on in the community, what changes were needed. So every time I heard town clock mentioned, I kept remembering the importance of the town clock to, one, keep people woke, awaken the people, keep them on schedule, and to make sure people realize that we never have as much time as we think we have. And some of that time has got to be used to help others. So I'm thankful for the ringing of the town clock.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr. Arabia Mollett is an emergency medicine physician and health expert who hails from the South Bronx, New York. She is the embodiment of strength, perseverance, and empowerment. In the span of 6 years, Dr. Mollett witnessed her mother attempt suicide. She experienced domestic violence, and she suffered the traumatic loss of her 4-month-old son at the hands of his father. Then, 6 years later, her youngest sister was murdered while riding in a friend's car. These traumatic incidents, in addition to countless others, fueled Dr. Mollett's desire to study medicine to make a difference in her community. She is living proof that you can overcome adversity, as she is a product of homelessness and poverty.
Thank you, Lisa, for the fabulous introduction. I am honored to be here to discuss a topic that often doesn't get enough attention. As we all know, this is October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I am an emergency medicine physician. You guys say ER doctor, but I am an emergency medicine physician, and I specialize in emergency medicine and trauma includes domestic violence. Not only that I've seen it as a healthcare professional, but I am also a survivor of domestic violence as well. At the age of 15, I had ran away from home because my home life was severely and chronically dysfunctional. And so in the midst of me running away from home, one of my really good friends, she's actually my best friend to this day, had introduced me to an older gentleman. And this older gentleman had a cousin that was also dating my best friend. And so, you know, being a young girl in the streets and lost and looking for love and just trying to figure out how I'm going to survive with everything that was going on at home and just being out in the streets, I definitely fell into his hands. He offered to take me in his home, and he promised to take care of me. He promised me the world. He said that he would protect me from danger. He will protect me from, you know, guys that are so dangerous, and protect me from even from my own family. And so I believed him, and I moved into his home, seeking refuge. And moving into his home, I would say maybe about a month later or so, the abuse began. The physical beatings, the psychological abuse, and the sexual assault was occurring daily. And gosh, it's so hard to talk about it because it brings a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain that goes into this story. But I will say that, for 2 years straight, I was constantly beaten by him. My nose was broken. My ribs were broken. Just being embarrassed in front of people constantly, and to the point where he raped me in front of one of his friends one night, and I wound up becoming pregnant. And I ended up becoming pregnant. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was 16, I think going on 17 years old. And I didn't know what to do when I found out I was pregnant. I wasn't too sure if I should get an abortion. And if I do get an abortion, I would have to get consent at the time. I believe I think I had to get consent. If I'm not mistaken, but I know the laws have changed over the years as far as getting consent is concerned. But I was told that I needed to get consent. But at the time I lied about my age and told them I was 18 years old when I went to the abortion clinic. But when I went to the abortion clinic by myself, I don't know, something told me not to do it. And I remember I got the ultrasound, and the nurse that was doing the ultrasound on me, she said, I don't think you're ready for this. I don't think you're ready to get this abortion. And I don't believe that you're 18 years old. And I know that you're by yourself. And she said, we can't do this. And so I cried, and she said, go home and think about it. Try to talk to your parents, talk to who you need to talk to make this decision. And so, of course, like I told you before, I had ran away from home, and I went back to his house, and I told him that I couldn't do the abortion. And, he was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. He said, well, we're just going to keep the baby. And I'm going to love you. I'm going to take care of you. I promise I won't put my hands on you. Again, promise me the world. And, just me believing in that and thinking that this man really did love me, even though he had raped me in front of his friend. I'm thinking things are going to change once the baby will come. Well, as I started getting bigger as far as my pregnancy is concerned, the beatings continue. He beat me throughout my pregnancy. I remember one night that he kicked me, and he choked me, kicked me in my stomach, and he choked me. I didn't go to the hospital because I was afraid that my family will find out, was ashamed. I was afraid that he will kill me if I would have went to the hospital and told them what happened, because he would threaten me and said that if I tell anybody that he will kill me. Eventually I had the baby, and at the time when I had the baby, I was able to communicate with my teachers in high school that I need help. And what they did was that they actually, before I had the baby, I actually wound up having homeschooling. But the only way I was able to have homeschooling, I would have to move back into my family's house. And so I did move back to my family's house at the time. And this is at a time period where we came together and we were trying to figure out as a family how we were going to get through our own issues and our own trauma. And so I went back home, and I wound up getting homeschooled by my teachers. My teachers helped me out a lot. I was a high honor roll student. I was in all advanced placement classes. So not only I was a high honor roll student and I was an A student, but I was also taking advanced placement, which are college level courses. And I was in biology, I was in chemistry, I was in world history and English. That's how deep that I was into studying and making sure that I excelled well in school despite my circumstances. Because one of the things that I promised my son is that he's not going to have a mother that is not going to graduate from college. He's not going to have a mother, that's not going to graduate from high school. He's not going to have a mother that is not going to go to college, because I still wanted to become a doctor. And I've been wanting to become a doctor since the age of 5. And I made that promise to my son that I will do exactly what God had intended for me to do, the vision that God gave to me at the age of 5. And so, once homeschooling was done, I had to go back to school. And it was hard for me to pick my baby up from his father, take him back with me to go home so I can study. So we made an agreement that on certain days out of the week that he will watch the baby while I go to school, and I will pick him up. Until February 20th, my whole life changed. On February 20th, I remember I got several letters from college, from different various universities throughout the country, including HBCUs, and full scholarships on top of that. And I looked at those letters and I said, okay, this is my opportunity to escape from him. I'm going to utilize this opportunity to start life all over down south, because I was planning to move down south to go to college. And I figured that, okay, take my son. My son is definitely going to be proud of me. We're going to go down south. I'll still be with other family members that will help me to, take care of him while I'm in school. And again, my family at home, again, we were still going through our situations, but at the time we were in counseling and we were just trying to figure out as a family how we were going to make it through our own trauma. But on February 20th, I called him. I called my son's father. That day, my son was with his father, and I was planning to pick him up after school. And I told him, I called the father and I told him on the phone, like, listen, I'm out. I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. I'm planning on going away for college. I'm taking the baby with me. He cursed me out on the phone. He called me the B word. He called me, he just called me every derogatory name that you could think of. That's what he called me, besides my name, besides queen, besides saying congratulations, queen, or anything like that. At the time, he wasn't saying queen, but this is back in the early 90s. But, nothing positive came out of that conversation. And I said to him, it's all good. It's okay. I'm going to pick up my son, and that's that. After I hung up the phone, the spirit was just like, Arabia, something doesn't feel right. And as soon as I started having that tuition started picking up, I received a phone call from the hospital. I want to say maybe about 15, 20 minutes later that my son was in the emergency department. And I would say to myself, like, why would my son be in the emergency room? That doesn't make any sense. It was a nurse that called me instead of the father calling me. The nurse had called me. And then I hung up the phone, and then he called me a minute later and said, oh, you have to come to the emergency room. The baby's really sick. Something happened to the baby. I don't know. The baby's not really breathing well. So I'm like, okay, let me just hurry up and get dressed now so I can hurry up and go to the emergency room. So what I did was that, because I didn't want to take public transportation, because I didn't want to wait, I called the police department. I called our local police department, and I asked them that if they could send a cop over to my house to pick me up and bring me over to the hospital. And so one of my sisters had actually came with me. And so the cop came and picked us up, and we went straight to the emergency room. And as soon as I went to the emergency room, some more police were waiting there at the emergency room, and they took me straight to where my son was. And damn. All I know is that my son had bruises. My son's skull was crushed. My son was intubated, meaning he had a breathing tube down his throat. He had handprints on the side of his stomach, on both sides. He had a tube that was in his penis. And his eyes was black and blue. And his face was swollen. And I was just like screaming, just screaming out of my mind, because I'm like, what happened? And the police immediately arrested me. They arrested me. They arrested my son's father. And they took us down to the police station. And my sister came with me. And we were being interrogated for, I remember being in that interrogation room for 3 hours. They asked me all kinds of questions. Where was I? Who I was with. And thankfully so, the police officer that came to the house to come and pick me up, and my sister, they were my alibi, because they were able to say, they said, she placed this call to the police station to come and pick her up at around this time, and I was the one that picked her up. And so they asked me to step out the room and wait in another room. And so I waited for another half hour or so, and the police came. One of the detectives came, and he said, I'm sorry, but your son's father's under arrest. I don't remember exactly what was the next set of words that came out of his mouth, but I just remember just passing out. And the police grabbed me, and he was like, listen, talk to me. Let me know what's going on. Talk to me. And because I was in shock. And then he said the hospital called to transfer your baby over to a trauma center. and because your baby went into cardiac arrest. And so they transferred my son to a trauma center, a level 1 trauma center, pediatric hospital, which is Westchester Medical Center in Valhalla, New York. And they needed for me to give permission to them to give him a blood transfusion. So I gave them permission over the phone. The police took me straight to the hospital. Before they took me to the hospital, I called my family. I called my dad, I called my mother, called all the rest of my siblings, my uncles, everybody, to let them know what happened. And so they took me straight to the hospital. My family met me at the hospital. So when I got there, my son went into cardiac arrest again. And I just remember crying and praying and just asking God, like, why are you doing this to me? I've been through a lot in my life since childhood. Why are you doing this to me, God? Haven't I shown you that I've been a good person? Haven't I shown you that I'm not the one that's causing these problems? Like, I'm doing everything I can to make it, and you're taking my son away from me. While my son, when they resuscitated my son, and my son got his, when they were able to, after they finished resuscitating my son, and my son was out of cardiac arrest, the doctor came up to me and he told me, he said there was going to be a slim chance that my son was going to make it. And from there, he said to me, whatever you do from this point on, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but God is speaking to me to tell you that you need to become an ER doctor and utilize the situation, utilize this issue, this whole entire situation as a way for you to inspire and be motivated to become a doctor and inspire others and use your story to help others. After that, my son went to the 4th cardiac arrest and he passed away. Man, this is hard to talk about it, but it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I'm here to let everybody know that you can survive. Use my story. And you can get out of your situation. You can get out of your situation. I promise you that. Sorry. But I'm alive and I survived. And I went through a lot of counseling, years of counseling. My family went through years of counseling to be able to get through this trauma. And it still haunts me to this day, but I'm able to adjust and to move forward and be a witness and be a testimony for others that are in this situation. But I'm here to remind you that you can get out of it. There is help and there is hope. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Benita Mitchell, to share about her organization, Healing Waters Global.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Benita Mitchell. I am a survivor of child sexual trauma and founder of Healing Waters Global. We are a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization in New Jersey. We serve women and girls sexually violated and women living and affected by HIV and AIDS. 1/3 of our women are also domestic violence survivors. We provide a safe and sacred space for survivors to break their silence, tell their stories, and do the work of healing from trauma. Our signature program is our Forgiveness Frees the Butterfly Healing Weekend Retreats, which is free to survivors who cannot afford them. Our retreats are therapeutic and spiritual in nature. They include yoga, music, dance therapy, massage therapy, vision board activities, role play, meditation, and much more. We believe there is a global war and pandemic being waged against women and girls. Like most wars, it is a war of power and domination, designed to destroy the mind, body, and soul of its victims, rendering them powerless. The weapon of this war is sex, physical, emotional, and verbal abuse. But there is good news. A Malawian proverb tells us, quote, "A stick on its own is easily broken, but if you put sticks in a bundle, the bundle becomes very strong." so strong that you can't break it. A spirit on its own can be easily broken, but bundled together we will not break. This is our power and our strength, unquote. When Healing Waters Global and Town Clock put our sticks in a bundle in the way that serves survivors, we empower and strengthen them. The ties that we have let our sisters know that we believe them, that it was not their fault, and that they are not alone, because we are here to help and support them. That also, in our service to you, our beloved sisters, we want you to know that you are brave warriors, warriors who found the courage and strength to rise up and take back your power. And we promise to help keep you safe and help you live a more free, fearless, loving, forgiving, authentic, and purposeful life. We love you, we respect you, we celebrate you, and you are our heroes. But there is another global war and pandemic in our midst called COVID-19. This is an insidious war that has taken the lives of over 200,000 Americans and counting. But we are not defenseless. Every day, our first responders, our policemen and women, firemen, doctors, nurses, sanitation workers, maintenance workers, EMT workers, food service workers, and teachers, just to name a few, go bravely into harm's way, risking your lives like the firemen and frontline workers in the raging and deadly fires in California, Oregon, and Washington State. But sadly, many of you have perished in your efforts to do so. We mourn your loss. We love you. We appreciate you. We pray for you and your families, and we want you to know that you are indeed celebrated as America's great heroes. At this time, it gives us great pleasure to introduce you to two phenomenal women, Dr. Melanie R. Hill and Melanie Daniels, who will bless us with a special rendition of Hero. Thank you.
There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of who you
Introducing John Keller, president of Town Clock CDC, with the Man Stand.
Hello, my name is John Keller, and I am the board president of Town Clock CDC. It has been my honor to serve this incredible organization which works to create a more long-term solution to one of the most historically endemic, hidden, and under-resourced health crises. Domestic violence has often been considered a woman's health issue, but let's be clear, it's a men's problem. While anyone can be a victim or perpetrator of violence, whatever their age, race, gender, or sexual orientation, the vast majority of perpetrators are men. And violence comes in many forms, from physical and mental abuse to catcalling, unwelcome advances, and lewd jokes. To solve this, it will require men to take a stand and reckon with their own cultural attitudes and behaviors towards women. It will require laws, resources, and personal action and accountability. No longer can we accept excuses like it's just locker room talk or boys being boys. It is time for misogyny to become a thing of the past. It is time for men to say enough is enough. It is time for men to take a stand. To tell us more, please welcome Commissioner Kenneth Armwood.
I want to first thank Town Clock for inviting me to speak about a scourge that I've had to unfortunately talk about throughout my career, which is domestic violence. I heard a phrase tonight, which is taking a man stand, and I'm taking a man stand against domestic violence, and I encourage all men to stand up against domestic violence and to support victims of domestic violence. We often hear about what happens, but we don't hear about the aftermath. And it's critical that we support services for the victims of domestic violence, such as counseling, housing, transitional services, job relocation, housing relocation. We need to make sure that we provide mental health for the children who are the often unheard of victims in these relationships. But it's critical that as a man in society, we start to accept responsibility for teaching younger men about their roles in relationship and teaching them that love doesn't hurt, and teaching our young ladies that love doesn't hurt. Domestic violence has unfortunately extended to dating violence. The first time that I had to encounter dating violence was a friend of mine was kicked by her boyfriend at a open fair. We were out at a fair at a school, and they had an argument, and he turned around and kicked her. This was in high school, and unfortunately the ages are getting younger than high school now. So again, as a man, I encourage all men to take a man stand against domestic violence. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ralph Roll. I am a professional drummer and a business owner here in New York City in the Bronx. I've been a professional drummer now for 41 years. Throughout my life, it's taken me to some amazing places, but there's a portion of my life that has always been steeped in frustration. And it has to do with my older sister, Yvette, who is now deceased. When I was around 10 years old, my sister married young. She married a guy that she thought was very nice, of course, and they moved in together and to start a life. And I would go visit her. My sister was the one that always supported me in my early years of playing drums, because she was an artist. And as time went on, she gave up the artwork and continued to be an amazing cook. But I remember when I was 10 years old, her coming to our apartment to visit and being in pain. I paid it no mind because she also played softball. But my mother, who was extremely intuitive, she knew that something was wrong, and she would question Yvette, and Yvette would always hide the situation that was going on with her and her husband. This one particular day, she came over, and she had a completely closed eye. It looked like a Rocky movie. It was like that. My sister's tall. She's 6'1". So my mother said, "Okay, so what happened?" And I remembered like yesterday because she said she bumped her eye going into the closet. And my mother, when she was angry, could be very colorful with her mouth, and she basically said, "There's no way that happened." And she was tired of my sister's abuse. And when I found out about that, I was completely enraged, and I think I was madder than I've ever been in my life, and helpless because I was 10 years old. There was nothing I could really do about it. But my mother, my brother, and my brother's friend, they went across the bridge to her house, and she didn't want them to go, and they straightened the situation out. My sister divorced this guy, but I remember the beating so bad that she was taking from him that it literally left a mark on me. So for so many years, I would think about that if I saw a couple arguing. There was one particular time when I was older, I was a teenager, and there was a couple arguing across the street, and the guy grabbed the girl by her neck and he threw her across the car, and I ran out the house to stop them. And as soon as I ran out and got to the guy, I could hear my mother, who was on the third floor, calling to Ralph, and I pulled him away, and she left. I don't know what happened, but my mother was so afraid that this guy could have had a knife, he could have had anything, but it was just that buildup. I believe in Town Clock because it has a purpose and an idea that helping women in distress along with their families is extremely important and touches everyone by doing this. So that's why I'm here, and I hope that you decide to do your part and want to donate not only your time but whatever you have to these women in their situations. And I personally thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm listening and I'm helping. My name is Brendan Nihill. I'm on the Town Clock board for about 3 years now. How I got involved was a lady came into my store and she was suffering from domestic violence from another state. I've been politically active in the town, and I thought I could make a couple of phone calls and get her help. But because she was from out of state, it wasn't that easy. We got her help, but there's still a lot of women that need help every day. We house women permanently and put a roof over their head, and I think we need to keep doing this. I'm asking all men to join me and stand up against domestic violence. Tonight I've donated to transform the lives of survivors. Will you help me? Thank you very much.
My name is Andrew Shaw, and I am the Board Secretary of Town Clock CDC. As a divorce and family law attorney, I have plenty of contact with families experiencing domestic violence and those who need the help, services, and stability offered by organizations like Town Clock CDC. It's essential for them to get back on their feet. This isn't just a women's issue. Men can be the perpetrators as well as the victims of domestic violence. Our society's implicit and explicit tolerance for such abuse is unacceptable. We must all unite to end domestic violence. Tonight, I've donated to transform the lives of survivors. Will you join me?
1/3 of women report experiencing domestic violence in their lifetimes.
Too many others never report their abuse.
For all mothers, grandmothers, sisters,
daughters,
aunts, nieces,
wives, partners, and friends.
For society as a whole.
I stand against domestic violence.
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 And I support the work of Town Clock CDC.
Tonight, I've donated to transform the lives of survivors.
Will you join me?
To support the Man Stand movement, donate at www.townclockcdc.org/donate.
A special thank you to all the men who participated in the Man Stand. It's important for women and children to see the support of strong men as they leave their abusers and break the cycle of abuse. We thank you again for your support. Well, tonight has been an inspirational journey through the eyes of the residents of Town Clock CDC, supporters, as well as the many advocates for change for domestic violence survivors. We are listening, we hear you, and we support you. Before we close out tonight, we want to remind you that every donation helps create more permanent, affordable housing and services for survivors of domestic violence. But do not just stop with your donation. Tell others about Town Clock CDC, share the stories you've heard tonight, and about the people who are benefiting. Let them know that the goal of this evening is to scale this innovative, effective work to help communities around the country build at least 2 of these facilities in every state of our incredible nation. Visit us at townclockcdc.org/donate and on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Follow, like, share, and comment. This is critical to raising awareness and helping more survivors. Again, we want to thank our presenting sponsor, Cadillac, and all the other sponsors for their support and dedication to women's empowerment. I can't think of a more appropriate way to end the show than with the song, I Will Survive. Tonight, we have embraced who we are as survivors, as advocates, as allies, and what's possible when we band together as individuals, businesses, and corporations with the goal of healing, home, and community. I'm Lisa Guerrero. Thank you so much for your time, attention, and commitment to Town Clock Community Development Corporation. Go forth and be brave.
There was a lot of things taken away from me in the marriage. Wasn't allowed to dance anymore, which was very hurtful. My singing kind of just wasn't as important as what he did, and I got to a point after raising my children that I felt like I didn't matter, like where do I fit in? And I wanted me back.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong, and I grew strong, and I learned how